Branding is built, basically, it's like 50% you and what you do, and 50% of what your marketplace or your ideal customer, what they think you do,
Right.
right? So that's where marketing becomes important, but marketing really can't start until you have clear direction on your message. My heart is like helping people really believe and stand in what they do and shine a light on them in a way that they're so comfortable and they're jazzed to go to work. Like, wouldn't it be great? Like Simon Sinek is always saying, like, what if everybody woke up and they were excited it was Monday, and excited to
I've
be.
been preaching about you know if you live for the weekends, your shit is broken. Like you
Yeah,
being excited for Monday is huge, and that's when if we can. I think there's like a mass like awakening right now, where like head popping
yeah,
out of asses of like, oh, like
yeah.
work doesn't have to suck, and I don't have to like live for the weekends. I can actually have fun with what I'm doing and
Yeah.
make something in my own way.
So the big question is this: how are creators like us, who aren't built for the 9 to 5, for the people who put their passion before them being comfortable, how do we turn that passion into a living that pays the bills and a life that we love? That is the question. This podcast will give you the answers. My name is Noah Mittman, and welcome to Conversations with Creators.
I am so happy today. My guest is Doreen Olsen. Doreen, tell the people what you're about and who you are.
Sure. Well, hello, Noah, and hello, listeners. I help to accelerate brands really through messaging and structure, like answering that question. So, what do you do? And, where I'm coming from is really as a branding architect. And what that means is I'm bringing like soul and structure out in what you do, who you are, what you do, how you do it, how you're trying to change the world, right? And, why do I do that? So you can have a faster track to helping your business really become a brand, you know? And
Yeah.
we'll talk more about like I've over my years I've discovered and found that one golden thread that just kind of cascades through everything that makes everything easier. So that's my mission, is to make it easy for everyone.
I love that. And I mean, messaging is everything with that. That's like where everything starts, and where even when you're doing like trying to figure out who your ideal customer is,
Yeah.
how you do that in your messaging gets you there.
Yeah. Yeah. I find even introducing myself, my name is common but not common, right? Everybody knows a Doreen, but they don't know 20 Doreens, right? And so I can cut right to I accelerate brands through messaging and structure, and most people know why that's important. If they didn't, I could add that on. So
Yeah.
getting really clear, especially nowadays, like I feel like um, it's hard for all of us to have any sort of a lengthened attention span, right? Just to
Very true.
uh, you know, be able to connect and communicate with clarity, you know.
Yeah. No, it's huge. I mean, that's the game. That's really that's like the building block of
It is.
everything else. It
Yeah.
really starts with your messaging, and something that I mean, I feel like it's never. It's like one of my favorite sayings is perfection isn't a destination but a direction. So I feel like messaging is always out. Like you're never going to be perfect. You can always get a little bit better, but it's that like chase that is
So,
fun.
so would you like to know why that messaging kind of shifts a little bit and changes a little
Yes,
bit?
of
You know,
course.
first of all, like when we talk about branding, and there's a lot of questions about, oh, do I start with my name? Do I start with the business name? And we can work through that. But really, your branding is as simple as like the impression that you leave behind when
Yeah.
you're not in the room. What is your brand? What does all of those touch points? What does that say about you and what you do? And I like to work on something that's repeatable,
Yeah.
because if you're quick and easy about it, like for me, I accelerate brands. Is that something that people can connect with and they can repeat to someone
Yeah.
else,
Very
right?
simple. Right.
Yeah. So if you think about branding, you are thinking about yourself and the messaging and your audience. But what tends to be a very vague thing is to understand, how do you really connect with your audience? And branding is built, basically, it's like 50% you and what you do, and 50% of what your marketplace or your ideal customer, what they think you do,
Right.
right? So that's where marketing becomes important, but marketing really can't start until you have clear direction on your message.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what is that like um, com- compelling thing? Life is good as spreading optimism, right?
Yeah.
And so you think about that. So if you think about your business, right, and you almost have anybody that's listening, if you have like a Venn diagram, two circles that have an overlap, think about one circle being your brand, and you are fully in control of your
Right.
brand. The other circle is your marketplace. And the marketplace has a perception about what you do. And the more they do that, the more that overlap is going to happen. And the common thread between those two circles is shared values. Just like
Yeah.
when we're building friendships and relationships, it's like,
It's all alignment.
oh,
That's why, and I love the my business coach I used to have called it your source commitments, but it's like a lot of companies call it like your company values or like whatever it is. These words that you really connect with, that you stand for. Then when somebody shares that with you, it's a lot faster into getting them to trust you and like work with
so
you or whatever.
yeah, and the words do not have to be complicated.
Yeah.
My words tend to be around clarity, connection, and momentum. I like to fast track things. I get
Yeah.
impatient. I don't like to sit long. I'm always creating and pushing boundaries, and so I'm curious, Noah, for you, like, what are three words that would best describe what you do?
Yeah. That's awesome because I have a list from the work with him, like a couple years ago. I have like like an 8 or 9 word list, but
Mhm.
getting it down to three, just the ones that come to the top of my head are um, empathy, hustle, and creativity.
And creativity. And then when you think about the content that you're helping learn, the access that you're giving them, are there
Yeah,
more words that come into play?
those really cover a lot because I think everything starts with empathy, where empathy is kind of market research. That's where you need to understand and put yourself in the shoes of your customers, where they're at, what they need help with. And if you don't have the empathy to like get that, it's gonna be a way harder journey for you.
Yeah, said
And
differently, it's like,
yeah,
how do you connect? Like
exactly.
it's harder to connect if you're shooting arrows into the ocean.
Right.
Whereas it's easier if you're holding up a magnet saying, this is what I'm about.
Yeah,
And if this speaks to you, the magnet's stronger, right?
exactly.
One thing I know about you, Noah, is like, early my research of what you do.
Yeah,
One of the words or phrases that had called out to me is like that you're always pushing the boundaries of what's being allowed, right? You're shaping and creating,
yeah.
and with that, offering these ideas for other people to run with is super important.
No, that is, I really do, because that's a big thing that I mean, I'm very vocal about is within Facebook groups of like, it's essentially this huge community if you get in the right place of your ideal customer. Now, obviously, you're not allowed to directly market to them,
Right.
but I've figured out ways to get like, just by asking the right questions and not breaking the rules, to really open up some conversations. And like that's how we ended up meeting and all that, of like, here's a creative way to still get some info and like build relationships with people, that's not just like high five fest, but it's actually like getting more.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people out there talking about the tactics and such, but I'm really here about, building humanity into
Yeah,
what we do. And it's like, I think of the infinity loop where, it's like a figure eight on its side, right?
yeah,
Where you're serving and you're sharing and you're helping and you're offering value. But then there's this wave that does make its way back to you. And with that, there's like an ecosystem. You know what you do and how you do it, and you know what your mission is in
yeah,
many cases. So then the next piece to that is, getting tight on what that message is so that you are landing with the right audience.
Yeah.
And if you're able to like infuse a few values, like I mentioned momentum, right? And that's what, your podcasts tend to be like fairly um, filled with momentum, like,
Yeah.
there's an energy about it, right? Whereas rather than, let's see, academic and a
Yeah.
slower pace, and
Yeah, 'cause I mean, that's kind of my energy and who I am is like I'm interested in learning, but I'm also interested in entertaining and not being boring and like really, for
yeah,
me, the academic like word kind of feels like a little drier, but like
yes,
if we can make education cool and fun and like
yeah.
have a good time with it, that's really I think what's most effective.
And making it dynamic, so it's relevant now, because what we saw, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, it's all shifting. So
Yeah.
you doing your work on messaging is so important, because remember what I said about the Venn diagram that I offered.
Yeah.
Your business and your marketplace, you and your focus and your messaging and what you're learning and what you're putting out there may be shifting a little bit, but your
Yeah.
marketplace is also shifting. So, like when people come to me and say, "Oh, I think I have to change my logo," well, one particular project that I had was a photography studio that said exactly that. And I
Yeah.
said, "Are you sure about that?" Because I felt that the logo still represented them very, very well. And they said, "Well, really, it's about the website. The website's not really. It doesn't feel like us."
Yeah.
When you bring branding, when you bring like true soul and values and structure into your website, all of a sudden, like you can feel like you, but the better thing is their audience feels themselves in them because they can see a little bit of themselves in it,
Yeah.
see a little bit of the values there. And so this particular,
That's where the real power of alignment comes in is when
yeah,
they do see the value, they are aligned with you and they agree with your message. And then the starting point for that conversation just gets so much easier. And
yeah, it's a
well,
warmer audience and they know you. You've given enough to be able to share who you are and what you do. And
yeah,
the work that I do, I'm branding from the inside out. I am pulling the soul forward,
yeah,
and then we want to be all the things, right? But we don't have to be. We really can specialize in what we do,
yeah,
and when we do it and we communicate it effectively, like our audience, our niche, like you can see your niche so easily. Like one nonprofit I was working with, they are sitting right between our government and private company,
yeah,
right? And so they were known as a watchdog, right? And they were trying to reach their audience that they thought were all homeowners in the area, right? In this region. And after we did some work together, all of a sudden, what they're focused on is air quality. Well, who's interested in air quality? The marine life, the universities, all of the emergency personnel. There's so many, and so their audience suddenly expanded from the smaller base that was hard to reach to a very large base and all of these partners that could help emphasize what they do,
yeah.
and really stand behind them. So in a very, very short window of time, they were able to expand their marketplace and presence and, support. And that's super important to do for a nonprofit,
Massive.
and
And 'cause, I mean, they need all the help they can get with, you know, being in that space. I know it's a rough space.
yeah, yeah. So to close on the story that I offered before about the website,
Yeah.
it's a lifestyle photography website, and they've got a casualness about them, but they have such expertise. And the long and short of it is that they initially said, "We think we need a logo change." It turned out they needed a website shift and a website focus on what they do. And the example of that would be like, rather than a montage of 20 pictures on a small screen, being able to see one powerful, connective, evocative, emotional message
Yeah.
that's direct, that says, create the desire and that sort of thing. But the full circle of it is that when we finished our branding, I would call it excavation, right? Finding their values and finding what this brand is all about, because there were 4 different people involved, and their brand is not one of the 4 of them. It is the 4 of them and what they do, the atmosphere, the experience that they deliver. And at the end of it, their logo didn't need to change. They could see why their logo was perfect for them.
Yeah.
So the formula that I wanted to share with your listeners
Yeah,
today,
that's what I was just gonna ask.
oh, thank you. Thank you. And the formula that for you listeners, what I want you to think about is a 3-step process, right? When we talk about branding, people tend to land at the third piece of the process, and that is what I would call brand image. There's 2 steps before that. Did you come across what they are, Noah?
I haven't.
Okay. All right.
That's all I was like.
This is some really good news. We are focused on our audience. However, the message is actually coming from the inside. You don't have to look everywhere on earth, because the right message really is on the inside. And here's how you can start to see that. Step 1 is really honing in on your story, right? Who you are, what you do, how you're changing the world, what that means. Corporations will call it vision and then call it a mission, right? And actually, they'll do the reverse. They'll call they have their vision of where they want to go, but the higher thing is their mission of what they're trying to change in the world. And then they break it down. So when we're branding from the inside out, you're starting with your story. And your story, think about that circle, your brand is, if it's well-spoken, is going to reveal your niche, your best audiences, just like we shared about that nonprofit, right? And there is enough of shared values that you will build that connection, almost magnetically. So what happens is this forceful selling, this kind of selling that many people are not comfortable with, because even from an empathetic side, it's hard to guess at what's in the mind of your audience. Well, when you're selling from the inside out and you're selling from your story, why that's so important is because your audience will tell you why you're important to them. It's been years for me. My best clients say to me, I need to work with you, and here's why. Like, I'm not even
Like green message.
years, it's really, moving through. So the 1, 2, 3 that I'm talking about is really about, you start with story, you start with you and how you're changing the world. And that will then reveal your best audience, your best niche. And those 2 things are what you want to look at when you create your image. Now, the last thing, which is what you did, is like to look at your brand image, and your brand image is your messaging, everything that is like customer facing, and the partners that might help you connect with those. What are they going to see about who you are and what you do? What is the experience you want to deliver?
Yeah.
And if you know those first 2 things, the story and niche, you can help shape the perception of what that image is.
Yeah.
No. Right? Your phrase of stop waiting and start creating.
Yeah.
Like, brings that energy and that momentum that you like to see in others. You're a videographer, you're not stationary, you're moving around quick, right? And your people are too.
How I shoot my videos, by the way, I rarely, if I like, interviews is the only time I'll use an actual tripod. Other than that, the camera's moving for me.
Yeah. Well, you can even tell the 2 of us are a bit wiggly, but that's okay, because that's us. Like, we have this energy, it's inside, it's bubbling out of us, and
no, you're totally right. That momentum of like either getting going or keeping going, of like stop waiting. So like, even if it's just stop waiting for today and get going, like it's even a mantra that I have to tell myself when I have a procrastination day. Hey friends, it's your podcast buddy Noah Midmid here, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about one of my passion projects, my clothing brand, Clothing for Creators. Roll the tape.
If my life were a movie, the hero's big speech would end with, stop waiting, start creating. Because that's the drive behind my story. Like when I couldn't afford to finish film school, So instead, I started my own production company and gave myself a trial by fire YouTube business degree. And it's not just me with these kinds of stories. There is this growing movement of passionate, creative, flow state writing, hustling, persistent creators and entrepreneurs that are taking the internet and the world by storm.
Everybody told me I wasn't going to be able to make any money as an artist. Now, 15 years later, I've worked on 3 continents. I do own my house. My shop, I'm booked out 8 months ahead. I don't subscribe to being a starving artist.
Creativity and I are very deep, dark lovers. I've just decided I'm just going to make stuff. And even if it's not perfect, like, it's getting made.
You're going to think that there's right answers and there's not. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let's just throw dye on it and it'll look great.
You don't need rules some old guy in a suit made up. You don't need anyone telling you that your voice doesn't matter. We are makers, creative types, side hustlers, doers. Why? Because we get shit done.
The most important thing every single day is just to get your shit done.
Just keep doing it, keep producing, keep creating, and as you do that, you're going to start becoming the person that you want to be.
Don't be scared to try. Commit. You can't half-ass do something. We're full-ass around here.
So there's a film you need to make, a company you need to create, a voice you need to share, a product you know the world needs. Put all of yourself into it until anyone who has ever doubted you starts asking you for a job. Then you get to play for a living. You get to create community.
Partnerships, collaborations, building bonds with people that like the same stuff you like.
You get to live with your heart on your sleeve, a smile on your face, and a solid answer to when anybody asks, why do you do what you do?
Sometimes you have to say fuck all the rules to get something that you really need to get out of yourself.
You don't need the opinion of the old guy in the suit.
You have to give yourself permission to just go. A little less conversation, a little more action.
Clothing for creators. Go check out snowmanfilms.shop today.
Hey there, fellow creatives. Conversations with Creators dives deep into the minds of successful filmmakers, artists, musicians, and all-around awesome people. We are looking for some kick-ass sponsors to help us keep this show on the road. If you want to reach a tribe of dedicated listeners who are just as passionate about creating as you are, then look no further. Our audience is full of people who appreciate a good laugh and are always on the lookout for new ways to fuel their creativity. So, let's team up and create some magic together. We'll work with you to make sure that your brand is showcased in the best light possible. And who knows, maybe we'll even become lifelong friends. Just imagine, years from now, we'll be reminiscing about the good old days when we first teamed up to take the world by storm.
And it's still very, very effective today, and I would say 2 things. Your message is always going to adapt. Your name, your business name may even shift, especially if you're building a business that's eventually going to be purchased by a larger company or what have you, right? But if you are able to really think through where you're at right now and where you're going, at least for the short term, and you can shift your messaging the way you need to. It doesn't feel stale or stodgy. That's what I like. Stodgy. And it feels authentic to who you are today, So
I think that's a big thing for the audience to really take in is like, I just really want them to like get that point of like, it's okay to kind of pivot or switch your messaging as you go. Because the right people will, say you have a group or say you have a, company that you have a certain kind of niche on, the people that still align with the new place you're going will stick around, and the other people, it's fine. So it's really, don't be afraid to do that.
I think the other message that I would share is like, not to worry about, I hear from owners quite frequently, well, I want to get it right. They want to get things perfect. That's really hard to do because you don't know until you step into the space, just like you did, like you recognized, wait a minute, there's an opportunity here, and you kept the momentum and you captured it, right? And so look at what is holding that perfection up and see if you can get beyond it and just take that one little step, because that one little step starts to show the next the next path forward, or the next step in your path. So again, it's really, when you look inside and you are bringing your whole self into your business, everything shifts and there's a lot less self-doubt. My clients, in helping them, it's like, yes, I'm helping them build their brand, but what I'm really doing on the underside is building their confidence in who they are, what they do, and why it's so darn important to see them, and make sure people know about them.
Pushing that authenticity, because we're really, I think we're, especially now, we're really entering this new stage of business being done in an authentic way
Yeah.
with people that really care about what they're doing. It's not just about profits, and it's like, it's more empathetic. We're entering into an authentic, empathetic kind of realm here of going forward. And that's where a lot of people have success. It's not, and that's super important.
Yeah. And relationships and keeping that connection. If we're focused on the relationship, we're not going to go wrong.
Right.
And if we're focused on bringing our best selves into it and not hiding, I find myself, I'm still hiding at times, for a long time. What did I tell you when we first connected, Noah? We're with your business name under the filming. It's like we're connected right here, And for those of you that can't see, I'm holding up a snowman mug. I am known as the Lindt Chocolate Snowman creator. so I loved, hearing your business name.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna have to go buy some of those Lindoff's
the truffles. They're the snowman truffles, and they only come out at Christmas time. So you're gonna have to wait a couple of months, buddy.
I'll be on the waiting list.
To be surrounded by like minds, there's nothing like it. So it's like making fast friends, right?
Like immediately.
and values, it's like, okay, the walls come down,
right,
and deliver good stuff to others.
The shared values and the want to serve and the want to help is just, as soon as you're in that space with somebody else who agrees, it's like you feel at home, and that's the right place to move forward when you feel like that. Instead of, I kind of get a weird vibe off of this. Like, that's not a place that you should hang out in for long.
Right. And sometimes those weird vibes are triggered by somebody else giving that they're a little bit uncomfortable with their own selves. It's not necessarily us.
Right.
And so, but yes, shared values, it's like, brings on that infinity loop, like, and knowing your story and getting clarity on that, is just super, super easy. And, I would definitely invite more conversation. In fact, I'm starting a monthly Zoom chat that is all things around business and branding, and that we talk as business owners, because I've had people that reach out and say, what next? Like they take a course or what have you, and they want to keep the conversation going. And I think that's the next level as well.
Yeah, it's the community piece. And that's, I think, where, especially having again, the Facebook groups thing, having a place where you can have that community and that conversation keep going. You can help people with their questions. Like, that's so powerful.
And you can celebrate.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And we as a culture, we don't celebrate enough, like that is part of what is so fun to live together, and breathe into each other's business and build that ecosystem that's so important to what they do. I come from a background of brand marketing for major global brands, right? And yes, I still help some of those big brands, but I help Main Street America. My heart is like helping people really believe and stand in what they do and shine a light on them in a way that they're so comfortable and they're jazzed to go to work. Like, wouldn't it be great? Like Simon Sinek is always saying, like, what if everybody woke up and they were excited it was Monday, and excited.
I've been preaching about if you live for the weekends, your shit is broken. Like, being excited for Monday is huge. And that's when if we can, I think there's a mass like awakening right now where like head popping out asses of like, work doesn't have to suck, and I don't have to like live for the weekends. I can actually have fun with what I'm doing and make something in my own way.
It is all about your messaging, because if I used for the work that I do, if I simply said branding, right? People would go right to logo. I do all the work before logo development, all the work before the website development. I'm helping to like shore up your foundation so you can put up 4 walls, you can get a roof on, you can build a house or a skyscraper. You need that foundation, and it
Yeah.
saves so much time.
And it's so personal, like that work when you go to that deep level, which is really how everybody should do it. You should like it's
Yeah,
it
but
has
you
to
go
come
into
from
your
you as a
business.
person. It has to come from what you care about, and
Yeah.
because that's how it's sustainable, right? Like for anybody listening, say you have this idea that you're only kind of excited about, that it may be part of you, but isn't like a whole you, and then it blows up, and that's what you're doing full time, 60 hours a week for the next 20 years. Like that's not going to work for you.
No, that's why I like to say, bring you to work every day.
Yeah.
Like we have been taught as a culture to look outside of ourselves for answers. The best answers come from the inside. The work that I do, I'm bringing neuroscience, I'm bringing psychology I'm bringing consumer science into branding so that it is so sure and so strong. I have an appointment next week with one of the world's largest watercraft manufacturers, right? And they will have their watercraft in the Summer Olympics, not 2024, but 2028, and working on their messaging and their presence, so that it's high end, it's carbon fiber, it's fitness. It's not for the everyday household, but it is for the very much committed athlete, that it's more or less what people that are in the golfing world, that absolutely they'll spend the money on the golf clubs, right? And spend their time there. That's exactly and working with them, we're bringing out their messaging, and shoring up their structure, so that they know what to focus on next, and Lynn Chocolate, I joined when it was about a $32 million company in the US, and it grew into $1.5 billion in the 13 years I was there. And we were very, very careful about building our plans 18 months in advance, always looking at the marketplace and what the marketplace understood of us, right? To be able to dial in and come out with something that was brilliant, so that we could move from, I think we were ranked 28th when I was asked to come on board, and we moved to, I think, 4th when I left. I mean, that's
Just
like
massive. Yeah.
yeah. And with that, like, I mean, any business really can do that.
I was gonna say, yeah. So like for any person or any, a solopreneur or somebody starting up, what is a good question that they can ask themselves, or when if they know who their ideal customer is, that can move them in the right direction of getting their branding set up in that way?
I would think through and even do a sticky note exercise for yourself, and think about what are the 3 words or even 3 phrases that best represent you. Now, when we ask people to do this, Noah, they will say, well, do you mean personally or do you mean professionally? And I will say both.
Both. Yeah, exactly. Because it has to be both. I think the phrase of this podcast so far has been "bring you to work." Like that just hit me so hard. It's like, that's it. You need to be yourself. Period.
Yeah. I'm writing that down too. Yeah. I love it. And
no, if you're putting on some sort of show or mask, it's no better than the Instagram filters that make you look like a different person. Like it's not you. It's and when you set up from that place of like, this is me, I think it just frees you up in everything that you do to be more authentic and to have not be like less fearful and more courageous in what you're doing.
That is exactly what I was going to share, is like all that noise in your head, all of those questions in your mind, all of that self-talk that's not exactly supportive,
right?
All of the expectations that you have for you start to melt away, and you become so effective in what you're doing and direct. And the stepping stones are right there in front of you when you get clarity. But the takeaways, I would really start with finding those 3 words or phrases. And if you can't find, maybe you've written down a dozen, right? Refine it and find out those words, because, and I would say go beyond adjectives, because when you can get to nouns and you can get to verbs, that is where, momentum, you can twist that in a couple of ways, right? Clarity, I see it as a noun,
Yeah.
even though it could be a verb, which is different than if I simply said kind, oh, Doreen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's not as effective as Doreen's super clear. Yeah.
Right. Well, and honestly, the clarity is one of mine as well for the long list. And it's because if you don't know what you're about, who you're able to help in the best way, like if you're still trying to figure that out, you need to figure that out before you can really start pushing something. You need to like have that journey within yourself to find your path so that you can actually, because it's then you get the shiny all the time of oh, this is a cool idea, or this is a cool idea. And we all have that in those moments, but you have less of them if you're really clear.
Yeah, and getting clear, you're not alone in it. Ask the people around you.
Right.
So oftentimes, I will ask somebody to describe themselves not from their point of view, but the closest people that know them, right? So, or their best customers. How would
Yeah.
a customer describe you to them,
Exactly.
and why you're important? What would they say to your to the next customer? Like why is what you do important to them? And
That's
I
like a really
out of our show.
actionable exercise that people can do is if you've had any customers or even people that are interested, ask them, because again, asking questions is one of the most powerful things you can possibly do when you're figuring out branding. Is ask those people that are big fans of you why they're big fans of you, and if there's like connections or similar answers that come back, you can start to build on that because that's out of your own like perception of you, which sometimes isn't as cool, isn't as good as the people that are fans of you because you're a perfectionist and you are always trying to be better. But being able to let the people that really like you for the reasons they see through kind of the other stuff. I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And that is what I know is that we see ourselves as much as we're getting clear and bringing clarity to ourselves, we see ourselves with a filter. And
Sure.
it's not always an accurate or full and positive filter,
Yeah.
And there are other mindset things that I know you talk about mindset as well, is like moving through being able to receive those compliments and really hearing people and not pushing that compliment away, but instead investigating a little more, explore with them. Like what? So give them the task. What is one word that would describe me better?
I was just gonna say, then like, what are 3 words you would use to describe me, and then see what are the repeats, and then you can start from there.
Yeah, yeah. And the last thing for course creators, I would say, we are really moving. There's been a lot of do-it-yourself type of programs out there, like you buy it. Those work well. There are done-for-you services, but I love to work with the done-with-you services. So there's the banter back and forth here of what really, really reveals what your business is all about, what your soul is, what you really like to do, and that energy comes forward magnetically, and the right people will know about you.
Yeah. It goes once it clicks, and once you just are able to roll with it and find the path that you need to be on and not be judging of it, and just like as long as you're excited about it and you still have energy, you're going on the right path.
Yeah, and see where it takes you.
Right.
You,
It's an experiment.
I'm assuming there's a fair amount of people that just with the changes that have happened over the past year, whether with jobs or just relevancy and what we do and all. If you are moving into this space and out of another space, don't be afraid to bring all of you into it. There are no borders.
Right.
Like you can fully bring you. How I work is unique, and how I encourage people. I mean, our sessions are videotaped and everything, so that people can go back and listen 2-3 times later, like, and still take action. So it keeps the productivity up, right? I would ask your listeners, every one of you that are out there, like really be open to being dynamic, because your way is the right way, and really like we've been talking about, bring your full self to work, and you're going to love it, then it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, and again, this is something I've said on several episodes of like, no matter what, at the end of the day, you're going to be exhausted, either from, showing up in your best way and being in flow and doing your, the most you can do, or negatively being somewhere you hate, with a job you don't like, with, where the hours just crawl by. You're going to be tired no matter what. So you might as well go after something that you are passionate about, are good at, and give it a shot and have more fun while you're doing the process.
Well, and that becomes the less is more, excuse me, the less is more recipe too, because you're so on fire. It's easy. It becomes so much easier.
Right.
And celebrate your wins along the way for sure.
Oh God, yeah. Celebrate. That's you. We need to be more vocal about celebrating all the small wins, because that's really, again, just getting those 3 words down is a win. Getting, if you're completing something per day, that's a win.
But Noah, thank you so much for today.
Oh, it's been awesome.
Yeah, if anybody is interested in joining me, the easy way to reach me is to either find me on Facebook under Savory Insights, or go to savoryinsights.com. That's where, most of my information's there. And coming up, I will be adding a do-it-yourself type of course, so that people can really get through those 3 words and start building their own platform until they're comfortable investing more and, building their
I will be first in line for that, because I love your process, and I really want to dive deper with what you're doing. That's
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
And need to go check that out. Savory Insights. And thank you so much for coming on the show. And I really appreciate your time. And I hope in the audience that this has helped you get more clarity on your message. And I will see you next time.
Terrific.